All right.
there.
All right, buckle up. I'd like to call to order the Saugatuck City Council meeting of August 22nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Second,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Leo,
Here.
Lewis is excused, Stanton,
Here.
Prester's excused.
Right. All right. Thank you, everyone. We have our consent agenda before you. It involves three items. We have the special city council meeting minutes from August 3rd, the regular city council meeting minutes from August 8th, and accounts payable in the amount of $627,000, $652.11. Do I have a motion to approve? So, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Gardner, second by Leo. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Hearing no further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll?
Second,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. We have our staff reports. We have city manager's report, treasurer's report, planning and zoning report, DPW, fire. Police department did not submit a report, but we do have Lieutenant Ensfield on the line if anyone has any questions for him, and the engineer's report. Do I have a motion to accept the staff reports as outlined?
So moved.
Motion by Leo. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Motion by Leo, second by Stanton. Any discussion on the staff reports?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I could jump in.
Please.
In addition to my city manager's report that's submitted in the packet, I'm very pleased to announce that the city has two accepted job offers for the two open positions. And as you know, we hired Frank Walsh to assist with the recruitment for the zoning administrator, project coordinator. And he brought a five-star recruit. His name is Mr. Ryan Cummins. So there's going to be two Ryans at City Hall. And then city staff assisted with hiring the other position, a Miss Sarah Williams. So we're going to be up and running full staffed after Labor Day weekend.
It's fantastic.
Good for you. Excellent. news.
We're very pleased.
Yeah. Go ahead. Thank you. I just would like to add, Mayor Lewis and I had the opportunity to meet the other Ryan and have a lengthy discussion with him. I think you will all be very pleased with his skill set, what he brings to the table. He's from a large beach community up in Muskegon. He also serves on the city council in Grand Haven, where he actually serves as the mayor pro tem. So he's got a wonderful background. He's a Spartan, which I'll let slide. Okay, fair enough. But his background is extremely comprehensive for a young man of his age. And I think he's going to be a really nice compliment to Ryan. We're just going to have to get the names figured out. So
Yeah.
but I think you're all going to be really pleased with who Ryan and Mr. Walsh found for us.
I'll push out his full resume and all the additional information. And yeah, he does serve as mayor pro tem in Grand Haven, but he also works with police force, community liaison in Muskegon, and he has event planning background. I think he's very well balanced for the city of Saugatuck. So I'll send out the information and you'll know all about Ryan. You'll get to meet him, and I think we're really rocking and rolling with our team.
Great. Looking forward to Cummings. Is that the last name? Cummins?
Cummins.
Cummins.
Cummins,
Okay, look
yep.
forward to meeting him. When will we see the resume?
Oh, I can push that out right after this meeting.
Perfect,
Happy
thank
to do
you.
that, yep.
And who was involved in the interviews with the zoning?
Exactly, yes. Sorry, go ahead. Don't
For
want
the
to
mayor
protect
and the
your
mayor
question.
pro tem.
That's correct. Yep,
Well-
exactly as discussed at our city council meeting.
Okay,
Mayor pro tem.
And city manager. Yep.
Okay.
Great. Anything else on your report, Ryan, or?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anything else we would like to discuss on the staff reports? Hearing none, do we need a voice vote on this?
No.
No vote? Okay, great. Do we have any agenda changes? Hearing none. Let's move to guest speakers then. Item 7, we have Consumers Energy here virtually to speak about the new substation site. We've got Tim Voss and Brandy Chambers on the line. I don't know which of you wants to kick things off, but the floor is yours.
Good evening. This is Tim Voss with Consumers Energy. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with the City Council. To introduce myself, I'm the project manager for Consumers Energy for major acquisitions in our southwest part of the state. I cover from Grand Rapids down to Ohio, Indiana, and always from the water to Jackson. So that's my territory. Brandy is my field agent that works with me. I have multiple field agents that are in the field working with our customers directly. And she had reached out to Ryan for me and our team to start this project going along. So getting into this project, Belvedere Substation is something that engineering and planning has brought to real estate to start working on. And the reason for this project was due to the high loads, or not proposed loads, that have been kind of submitted to our team over time. They felt that this was a really good area for us to start looking at future planning for load growth and capacity. The Saugatuck area does have 2 substations currently serving the community in the area. They're really close to town, but this one would actually be able to provide us a lot of opportunities for backup and also handle those new low growths. As we all know, I do visit Saugatuck. I'm from the Lansing area, but I do visit Saugatuck. I try to get over there at least every year because it's such a beautiful town, beautiful area. But that Blue Star Highway and the 196 interchange, this whole area, there's a lot of opportunity for low growth and a lot of opportunity for us to be able to work with our customers that are coming into this area. So here on page 2, you see the little spot that we are kind of projecting we'd like to look at for an opportunity to work with the city. It's just on 63rd Street there, just south of 136th Street or Avenue. And there's a parcel there that is about 150-acre parcel. We'd like to carve out just a piece of that, not buy the whole thing. We just need enough for a substation site. So if you don't mind going to the next page. I kind of hit this already, but the scope is really to look at the area for new opportunities for economic development that are coming in, any low growth, any new customers. Also, one of our biggest things that Consumers is really focusing on, as you guys have heard it probably many a times, is we're trying to drive increased reliability for our customers and make sure we can shorten up outage restoration when storms come in, and be able to focus on how we handle these outages. And having different assets in the area will allow us to do more with it. In the futures, our goal, just like every utility is to become a little bit more automated. Having circuit transfers that automatically transfer loads from one circuit to the other when you could possibly do it, and get that all tied together. So another key focus of this area was to look where we have good circuitry already and a good backbone. And that's really kind of the idea that the team kind of brought to us, was this area already has a really good backbone we can build off of and start to utilize that as a good footprint. And of course, it's close to the highway. So for accessibility, we look at all those for outage management, how we can get there sooner, faster, better, quicker, just so we can, when the lights do go out, we can be there and try to get everything back on as quick as possible. Next page. High level on this project is really, it is really high level. We are, we're really got our feelers out there to say, hey, who is willing to work with us? And that's why we came to Ryan and the team, was to talk about it and see, would this be an opportunity if we are able to acquire this property? Of course, the next our next goal would be to reach out to some of the homeowners or property owners in the area and talk to them about getting rights for the line to build to that substation. The team is projecting this to possibly be a 2024, more likely a 2025 project when it be completed by the time we get it through scope and all the way through acquisition and through construction. I know I kind of went kind of fast on that, but does the team have any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for presenting this evening. As I'm looking at the picture that was sent with the packet, I'm assuming that the dotted orange line is what ties into the existing line, correct?
Exactly. That is
Okay.
that green line is the existing 46,000 volt system that goes from substation to substation. We call that our sub-transmission voltage, but that powers both the substations that are there currently in the area. So the dotted line would be trying to, figure out a way. It's a high level right now. We possibly could jump right across the highway and go straight across. We could possibly do that. We could look at different routes, but there's kind of what engineering had sent to me to take a look at, meet with customers once we got the substation site fixed.
So the schematic here, the lot that you have mapped out here, that's actually the south end of the airport property, the city's airport property, is that correct? North, excuse me, north side of the property, yep, exactly.
North side, yep.
And that's 2.75 acres, what is what it said in the packet?
Yeah, roughly.
The township,
2.75.
yeah, the township says it's a minimum, they minimum lot size, non-residential is 5. So that's a potential issue? That's
Well,
correct?
and I can talk it over with the team. If it really is if we're not able to go to the township and get a variance for that, we can talk about if we need to get 5 acres, then if that's what the preferred site location is, we can work with that.
Okay.
So I'll just have to talk it over with the team, make sure they're okay with it.
And if I could I build on your comment, Russ?
Sure, yeah.
Just to build on what Councilman Gardner said. If I'm correct, I think the primary beneficiary in terms of development and in terms of increased reliability would indeed be the township. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Voss.
That's correct. And it would be everybody in not only township, but also in Saugatuck, in the village and the city. So, with having that future automation, we could actually be able to, and being so close to one another, the Saugatuck, substation that's not that far away, it's on the other side of the highway, we'd be able to tie some of these systems together with some automation. And that's kind of the idea in the future for all of our circuitry when you look at, especially in cities, or very urban areas, there's a lot of assets there. You can be able to transfer back and forth. We do have this automation currently in a lot of our major, bigger cities. It's not, we're building that infrastructure out. It's fairly new. So in the last, I would say 10 years, we've just started really going down that avenue and trying to figure out the best opportunity to serve our customers and look at those opportunities to make it better for you.
Okay. May I ask a follow-up, Russ, or you have further questions?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Mr. Voss, do you typically provide sort of a screening layer? Do you completely clear cut the area, or do you tend to create a buffer around the perimeter of a substation development such as this?
We work with all of our communities and we ask those questions when we do the design and the build. So if there is some type of requirements that you would like, we'll definitely look at that. I've seen us do berms. I've seen us do vegetation plantings with buffers. All of our substations, of course, are fenced. They are fairly clear. Now, if we were required to buy a 5-acre lot, we might not clear that whole thing. We might clear only what we need for the substation footprint. So we'd have to look at that as we progress through that project. But definitely, if there's any special requirements for either the township or the city, we would look at those.
What type of timeline do you have in terms of approaching the township with this? Are you waiting on word from the city of Saugatuck, or have you opened a dialogue with them, just given that they're the neighbors to this property?
Yes, actually, to be honest, we just saw the letter come in from Ryan this afternoon, so that would be one of our next steps is to have dialogue with the township and see what the opportunities are there for us to work with them. And if we need to, we will, we'll talk it over with both the city and the township to make sure we can come to agreement on what we need to do here.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, the letter he's referring to came from the township with the planning and zoning requirements that they have.
I was curious if a dialogue had started as opposed to just,
No, I don't think they're in direct contact with
Okay.
the township yet.
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
that's correct. We wanted to see if the city would be interested in the sale first, and then we were going to kind of move from there.
Mr. Voss, this is Russ Gardner. This looks like an ideal spot for what you have planned, and I certainly support increasing the infrastructure for support of our utilities here in town, and the township as well as all of our neighbors. Are there other locations that you're scoping out if this deal doesn't go through for some reason?
I'm gonna be honest, we did look at 2 other locations already. We looked up here to the north, a little bit closer to Blue Sky Highway. We contacted a couple of the owners there. But we weren't able to come to terms on any of the property that were in those locations. So we were kind of working our way down down the road here, trying to keep it really in this location. And I know our relationships with the cities and the villages are really important. So I actually talked to engineering and it said, hey, would you be okay with us approaching this third option with the village or the city and make sure that they, see if they'd be willing to work with us because, as you guys know, we're in the community together to serve the community. So, I wanted to focus on that. And I thought, hey, we'll give this an opportunity to see if it'll work. So.
Okay. Last question is more just for the council. And maybe Councilman Becken can remember. I don't remember the city's ever been approached for selling a portion of the property out there, if I remember correctly. There's been big projects that have been proposed that have never.
A lot of people want it for free.
Yeah.
Who wants to pay for it?
Yeah, so that kind of leads to my next question about what approach the city might want to take in terms of discussing partial sale of an asset.
I guess that's something that Ryan would have to talk to our attorneys about.
That's correct. Yeah, I've sent this information over to our attorneys and they'll review it, but this is their first ask. So it's not for me to say or shut it down in any way. It should come in front of council and, if council is interested in entertaining the idea, then I'll continue the conversations with our legal.
I think
I
the consent,
think
the
for
consensus.
the Community as a whole. I just know there's limitation on when you can sell property as opposed to putting it to a vote or how you deem it to be excess and where it fits into all that legal mumbo jumbo stuff.
Yes.
I think, so I think the message is, this is interesting, but it probably needs to go before the attorney.
Yep.
Yep.
So-
And I think you should be part of the dialogue with the township as well,
Yes.
I think.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Mr. Ross, I have one additional question.
Yes, sir.
Have you, I assume you guys went there and did a site visit? And I don't know if you had any people look at it from, I know there's some water issues in that area. There's some standing water. Is it that far north, Scott?
Well, that's pretty high.
There, it's a little higher there than it is further south along there, because there's some swampy areas in there too.
Yeah, there is.
So for the record, sorry, Scott, if you want to step up, sorry about it.
Yeah.
Just because we have audience.
Scott's probably as familiar with that property as anybody.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Scott Herbert, the Public Works Superintendent. My question would just be, Mr. Voss, is there any opportunity of looking at other areas of that property, or are you trying to go as far north and as far west as possible? Because there's a lot of interest in that property. We have, who knows what direction we're going to go in with it, but there's a lot of talk about cool trail systems that we could build on. And I would hate to see, Go ahead.
No, I definitely, if you have suggestions, we're more than happy to entertain that. The biggest thing for us is when we make these interconnections, we want to try and make them as close as we can to those assets, right? And to minimize, getting acquisition for the rights to get the line from point A to point B. And then also like, where we have the existing distribution system that's there. So, but we'll be more happy to look at the site. If you want to have a site meeting, I can set that up with engineering and our substation planning group, and we can meet out there, walk through it. If you have suggestions to the south, I'd be more than happy to take that back to the team and we can work through it.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think to be continued, let discussions continue on
Yes.
this, absolutely. Let's-
And we,
let's see what lawyers-
yes, and yeah, as far as the city goes, we love to partner with our major infrastructure providers. And of course, we want to continue this dialogue and see where it goes.
Certainly, wonderful.
Great, thank you.
Oh, no, good. Great. If nothing else on that, we have our next guest speaker here in person, I believe. Jill Dunham on the broadband project manager for Allegan County.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm happy to be here. I'm just going to give you a little overview of what we're doing with the project. So that map there represents, the yellow areas are served and the blue area is unserved, and the red is actually dots. There's just a lot of them. And they look like lines, but they're really dots. And those represent each address that is unserved.
So say that again, Jill.
The yellow is served
Yellow is served.
or in the process of being served. So if you look at Cheshire Township and Ganges and Casco Township over in the southwest corner, there's a lot of yellow, but that's all designed and in the process of being built through the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund grants. And so the big chunks of yellow over there are through federal funding. So, but they aren't part of the RFP that we're putting out because they're already funded.
And then the blue.
The blue is the unserved area. And then within the unserved area, we put a red dot where every home or business is that needs service. And the other thing is that in Pullman, there's an area that's shown as served, but that's really been pulled out because the city of the Lee Township is working on getting their downtown area covered, and they wanted to do it themselves and try and get some grant money from the state. So my mission is to work with the Broadband Action Work Group, the internet service providers, the local units of government, and other stakeholders to effectively utilize the county's ARPA funding. And that was the initial idea, was the county needed to know what to do with the ARPA funding. But after I started, I'm like, oh no, let's do the whole county. So there's grant money available through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It was signed last November, and it won't be until next year that we can actually apply for those grants, because there's a 270-day planning process. Every state has to file a 5-year plan of what they're going to do to cover all their residents, because that's their mission. And so that will be what we will be doing for the next 9 months. The state will be doing it, and I'll help where I can. We wanted to under promise and over deliver. So we said we would increase broadband access, but really the goal is everybody. So that's my contact information. Some fun facts about Allegan County: there are 875 square miles of land, 1,800 miles of roadway, fifth most in the state of Michigan, 63,780 parcels, and we are the 18th largest county by population and area. So we've been doing some data gathering. I've met with the township supervisors, mostly just because the cities are covered with broadband. It may not always be as good as you want it, but it's way better than the nothing that a lot of people have. I've met with our neighboring counties, Van Buren, Barry, Ottawa, Calhoun, and I've met with all the service providers that are either in the county or planning to build in the county. And we signed non-disclosure agreements with all of them. And the goal for that exercise was to create the comprehensive list of unserved addresses, and we accomplished that. It's not 100%, no data set ever is, but it's close enough to get some ballpark pricing together. So if you can go to the next page. Oh, and then the definitions for the FCC definitions around broadband is if you have 100 meg down and 20 meg up, you are considered served. If you have less than 25 meg down and 3 meg up, you are considered unserved. And then they created this other category called underserved. And that is when you are between 25 and 100 meg. And most of the county is unserved versus underserved. And then we do have a survey out, and Saugatuck has one of the highest return rates in the survey. So you'll be proud of that. It is an opportunity for people to report where they don't have service, and also to report on what kind of speeds they're getting. And we will use it as ancillary information to challenge the FCC maps. So the FCC is currently has asked all of the providers to provide data about who they serve and at what speed, services available at the address level. Currently, the providers are providing that information about who they serve and what speeds in what's called the Form 477, and it's at the census block level. So anybody that is served in the block, then the whole block is marked off, and they've seen the error of their ways, and so they're fixing it. All of the current round of new data collection is due by September 1st, and then the FCC hopes to have that compiled for the first view and for the challenge period starting in November. So funding options, this has always been the problem. We know we have a problem, but we don't have any money to fix it. And it cannot be fixed with capitalism because there is not enough revenue to ever pay back the investment. So what started this whole endeavor is the ARPA money. Townships and cities got ARPA money, and the county got ARPA. The county has 22.9 million. And most of it is going to go to broadband. The county commissioners allocated 1.5 million for the broadband office, but I think we're going to need less than $1 million. So there'll be some money available to use for actual infrastructure. And my position is funded for 3 years. And then there was $3 million allocated for water projects that met the criteria. And so that comes off of that, but pretty much, I mean, it's up to the commissioners to actually make the decision to commit it, but we've got around 19 million available, and we're hoping we can use it all for broadband. The additional funding, FCC has the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund program, and that's, there's a map of that down below, but don't move yet, but there's more to come on that. CMIC is Connecting Michigan Communities. That program has been run by the Michigan Department of Technology Management and Budget. I think they've only probably given out less than 50 million. This is a billions project, so it's only 50 million. And then the BEAD program is the big money, and that was the one I mentioned before, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The act in total, I think, was just somewhere between 60 and 70 billion. And the bulk of it, 42.5 billion, is going to broadband equity, access, and deployment. And I was at a conference last Thursday with the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office. They appointed the new Chief Connectivity Officer, Eric Frederick. And when we were in that meeting, somebody made the point of saying that without equity, it's just bad. So broadband access and deployment without equity is bad. Yeah. So I thought that was fun because they are focused on making sure that we don't just get people access, but they can actually use it. Like they have the skills to use it. They have the, it's affordable, so they're really looking heavily at the equity. And there's a whole each state, in addition to having a 5-year plan that says, how are we going to get everybody access to internet? There's also another plan, and we're going to do ours together. So there's not, parallel universes or anything, but the digital equity also has to be planned. So there's digital equity, and access and affordability is really a big part of the equity, but that's where the big bucks are. And then the USDA has been running programs for quite a while now. They have a program called Reconnect. Most of Cheshire Township is getting built out using Reconnect by Bloomingdale Communications. And then that's all funded under the program with the USDA, which is the Rural Utility Service. And that's kind of an interesting program because, for instance, you guys know Overijssel over here, just a little ways from you. There is a local telephone company there called Ascentech. They were originally part of Ace Telephone, and they're an independent. Back when AT&T set up all the phone companies, they were like the middle of nowhere people that nobody could afford to build to. So the local probably farmers at the time pooled their resources to create a co-op for telephone. And then over years, we in the telephone business call them the mom and pops, but sometimes it's just a family or a couple families, but those got bought up by companies who specialize in running independent telephone companies. And because they are extremely rural, all those charges on the bill that say the universal service fee, USF charges, that gets collected from all the people in the cities, and it goes in this big pot, and then they give it out to these rural telephone companies so they can maintain their infrastructure. So everybody in the north part of Overijssel has fiber to the home. Cool, huh? Yeah. So the USDA does some really good stuff. Okay, next, the bottom of half of that slide there. No, there we go. So this is the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund Award for Allegan County. I was talking about Casco and Ganges. You can see all that gray. They did it, like by computer with statistics and stuff. And it's also based on, what providers said that they were covering, so that we don't really actually have an explanation for all the gaps other than the federal government did it, and that's how it came out. So that's one of probably the big reasons why they're requiring the states to do this 5-year plan, so that we can have some cohesive, sensible planning and not have these big gaps in the middle of what was awarded. A couple other things about this. So all of the gray stuff is from an electric co-op out of Cassopolis called Midwest Electric and Communications, MEC. It's great local co-op type operation. They're highly regarded. They are coming from Cassopolis. So this year they're building all the RDOF awards they got in Van Buren County. Plus they got a couple of awards up in the north part of Berrien County. And they're on their way to us. And they're telling me that next year they will be crossing over the county line and starting to build into Allegan, and they will be completely done with all the gray areas by the end of 2024. And then the Mercury Wireless is now called Mercury Broadband because it sounds better to be broadband than wireless. And so they are out of Kansas City, Missouri, and the big chunks, all of that stuff in Clyde Township and that big chunk in Lee Township, that's all going to be fiber. And this big chunk over here that's just west of Otsego, that's all going to be fiber. But that little chunk up there in Wayland Township and those little chunks down in the far corner in Gunplain Township, those are going to be wireless. And then if you look up in the Saginaw area, you can see a couple little specks of the teal. And I've got another map for that in 1 minute. The lime green is Charter, and they have told me that they are building 30% more than what they were awarded. So they will build what they got money for, but then they'll build out around it and provide more service. And there's all the hybrid fiber coax, fiber on the backbone. And if the connection to the house is close enough, it'll be coax. If it's farther, it'll have to be fiber. Okay, the next page at the top has the zoom in on the Saugatuck piece. So there's the Saugatuck area. Most of it's in the, I would think probably almost all of it's in the township. But it will provide fixed wireless towers in those areas, and they serve 5 to 7 mile radiuses. So you'll be able to get some competition in here for Comcast, and hopefully that'll, have them do a little bit better on their customer service. But every one of those little specs is a census block. So there's no rhyme or reason to why those census blocks were selected, but they were all funded, and they have to build, they have to cover all of them. So they'll be placing towers in places that will allow them to cover all those spots. And then those spots are not included in our build, but areas right next to those that are also not covered will be built out. And their fixed wireless is 4G. It's the newer version of fixed wireless. And so they said that they can get up to 150 to 200 meg with their fixed wireless, and that it'll go through one line of trees, but then that's it. Not going to go through two. And so that's the plan for your area. And then I think the last thing is just about the RFP. Yeah. So the scope for our RFP is all the unserved residential and business addresses in Allegan County. Except we also are, but we are excluding anything that's not served now, but has federal funding already allocated to serve. So we released it on, I didn't update it. We released it on August 2nd, and the bids are due on September 16th. And bidders can bid on whatever piece of that they want to. So we're just going to take proposals from them and then going to take a look at them. And the goal is to have a comprehensive plan, a roadmap for extending broadband. And it's basically us selecting the preferred vendor that we want for us to have a comprehensive plan. Because when you leave it to the providers, they all cherry pick. Well, why wouldn't they? They have a goal of making money, and if they don't make money, they don't get to be in business. So, but their objective is not exactly the same as our objective to ensure everybody's covered. So we want to kind of have a say in it and come up with a recommended, and it doesn't guarantee that the state will award the grant money to the people we picked, but they are looking for local input. So if we have good reasoning, it would seem that that would be taken into account. And the other thing I didn't mention, I won't talk too much longer because I already know way more than you ever wanted to know. But the BEAD money is going to be distributed by the feds to each state, and the states will administer it, which is a big improvement over RDOF, where the feds administered it, and then you got Swiss cheese. So the other thing that they told us last Thursday, which was really exciting, is they said that they are going to do radical transparency. So that's exciting because that doesn't happen much, but they really want it to be interactive, collaborative. It's a huge undertaking to do this. Oh, and the state of Michigan is expected to get 1.5 to 1.7 billion in grant money. Each provider is going to be asked to, each service provider is going to be asked to cover 25% match. So 75% loan, or 75% grant, 25% capital from that provider. And there are probably places where some providers will provide more than that. And there are situations where if the cost is excessively high to build, that they will consider giving more than 75%, but there's going to be a lot of money spent in the next probably 5 to 6 years. So now you all are considered covered, but I know that it's not perfect. So I do want to offer to you that if you are having issues in particular areas, or if you even wanted to just, come up with some sort of a way for people to report, where they're having trouble, then I can go and advocate on your behalf to Comcast and kind of slap them around a little bit and tell them that they need to get with the program and do some better customer service. I've also been trying to help some folks that live on the Kalamazoo River. They're like kind of like 1,000 feet off of Old Allegan, on the south side of Old Allegan, just a little bit west of town. I think they're still in this, well, I don't know, would that be the city or the township? Probably the township. Anyway, I've been trying to help them get connected because nobody at Comcast will pay attention to them. But there's 3 people back there and it's totally a viable build. And so they just needed help. Any questions?
Any questions for Jill?
Well, Jill, nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Please keep us posted. And it would be, I think it would be advisable to set up a reporting system, downtown merchants in particular. But many of us suffer. So
Yes.
if you can offer.
I
some
got an eco survey
advocacy,
response. It was substandard speed. Mhm.
It is. So
Yeah, and you do need to call in the trouble tickets and complain because, data, they use that data. And if enough people complain, it does help. But yeah, I don't know, Ryan, if you want to put a form together or if you want me to put one, just probably like a Google form type thing.
I'd love for you to put one together and then we can push it out.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great.
thank you, Jill.
You bet.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Russ?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jill, for being here this evening.
You're welcome.
I work in healthcare and I thought we had a problem with acronyms. Oh my God, this is beyond where.
I
think
tried to
I-
spell most of them out.
No, you did a great job. I appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, the telecom industry loves acronyms. The federal government loves them too, yeah.
And what I guess what surprises me is how decentralized this system is.
Mhm.
And it's not a system. It's like healthcare. We call it a system, but it is not a system by any stretch of the imagination. So I can imagine across the country,
Mhm.
all this has to come together in some form or fashion. So
Yeah.
based on what you told us, it sounds like we're in good hands in Allegan County. Now, for our particular area, the complaints I keep hearing is not that we don't have coverage, but it's the speed. So I've had people saying, why are we not getting fiber optic? Because like fiber optic runs to our school
Mhm.
because of their involvement with the district. And I think it's Holland has done a bond issue. Is
Mhm,
that
they
correct?
did. Mhm.
Yeah, it passed. And I've had people say, why is Saugatuck not doing that? So I think the question really is, this is great, but it sounds like the Allegan County itself is going to be looking at prioritizing those unserved areas, right?
Yeah.
That's where the money's going to go. Eventually we'll benefit from that once everything kind of gets connected together is my understanding of it, but that's probably several years down the road. So I think the report so people know when they're having an issue, if they report it, it's going to the right parties, not the actual ISP itself, but someone such as yourself or another authority that's actually looking at this globally.
Right. Well, it's important to call up Comcast and lodge your complaint. It really is. Because if I come to them and say, these people they're like, well, did they call in a trouble ticket? So they want to see that, people went and did that. And I do think it will help, but I think I can add some extra attention to it. And now that we're, getting ready to award business, I feel like they're going to be a little more responsive because of that too. And I think what I want to do is talk to Comcast and have them put together a presentation for you. And they should do probably Saugatuck and Douglas both, and then do the presentation at both meetings, But I think we need to know where the old network is, where the backbone is still coax. And then the other thing I think they need to answer for is, even with coax, you can provide good service if you don't overload the loop, because they put them on shared loops. And if they don't have enough backhaul for that loop, then it's going to choke and you're going to get those lower speeds. So, it's kind of, they need to kind of tell you what their plan is for improving their service. And I'll get them working on
They'll
that.
make them come, please.
I will.
But one last question, more request. Love to get a copy of the presentation. This is a great.
Yeah,
information.
Ryan's got it and I sent
Okay.
it to Jamie too.
Thank you.
so.
Lauren, Mark, anything? Jill, thank you for coming. And I would just echo my colleagues' comments that speed and reliability, very important. Bandwidth has been identified in our residential surveys It's on the top of our strategic planning process. Past 2 times we've had these sessions, but bandwidth has come through loud and clear. As your presentation indicates, it doesn't appear that there's much in scope for the city of Saugatuck, but I wonder, is there any opportunity around a public safety issue? We continue to struggle with bandwidth at Oval Beach. And that's one area during the summer where we really do need good connectivity. We have
and-
thousands of visitors there and we have emergencies, and the ability to get through in the time of an emergency is critical. And I don't know if there's any opportunity for a public safety type of carve out for Saugatuck to get high-speed internet down to the beach.
That kind of internet is wireless internet from your cell phone providers, which is a completely different animal. Very similar. I mean, they operate kind of, I mean, you are seeing Verizon. T-Mobile right now is the one that's doing the best job of doing that fixed wireless for the home. So there's a little overlap in these networks, but your fiber to the home is coming from your traditional ISPs, Comcast, Charter, AT&T, Frontier. Yes, they actually do play in that space. They're not doing a very good job of it, but they claim they're going to start putting fiber in. So we shall see. We'll see. The beach is going to be an AT&T Mobility, Verizon, T-Mobile. That's that kind of capacity. And you are working with AT&T?
Correct.
Okay. Have you had any luck with Verizon?
Yes, downtown Saugatuck, small cell technology.
Good. Yeah. So that's where that one comes in. And even though that's not what my primary role is, there's a lot of waiting with the government and government money. So I do have bandwidth to take on other projects around, mobility. So Ryan, if you need any help with the mobility, but they're overlapping, but they're kind of two different things with a little overlap. But
I guess to me, it's multifaceted in that, to have the bandwidth to actually have a camera system at the beach, which presumably would work with this type of bandwidth, would be beneficial from a public safety standpoint.
okay. And you
Just
would do that with your Comcast.
if we could, I mean, if it's feasible to do so, I mean, cameras on the beach would be beneficial. Having the ability to take payment more reliably at the
Right.
entrance to the beach would be beneficial.
Oh, yeah.
If there was free Wi-Fi at the beach, a lot of people use
Mhm.
technology like WhatsApp, where they're not using their cell system, they're using an internet provider.
Well, but
to
even when they
message.
use WhatsApp, they're using it on their cell phone and it's still going over the cellular network.
But you can do both, though. You can do it on Wi-Fi too, I believe.
Oh, yeah, you can do WhatsApp on
That's why,
Wi-Fi.
like,
That's true.
when I travel overseas, it's
Mhm.
it's
Yep,
much more
yep.
affordable to use
Yes.
that. So we just any way we
Yeah,
can improve-
Wi-Fi is fed through the landline system.
Yes.
Yes,
So
so
any way we
that's
can
true.
improve connectivity to the beach is obviously of critical importance to
I'll
us.
do some research on that. I know about, that. I know cities will, set up Wi-Fi's and it's, somebody's paying for it. And sometimes it's the city that's paying, or sometimes they can, create a deal with the provider. So I'll see what options there are for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming, Joe.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
Mhm.
That concludes our guest speakers. We now enter the portion of the meeting where we have public comment on agenda items only. If we have any folks that would like to make public comment, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And if you don't make it in 3, there will be another opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. So anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment? Dan, please.
Dan Fox, City Saugatuck, and to the point of the comments also, Chair of the Planning Commission, I gotta say, I was surprised to see that there are 2 offers out on this position. Knowing that this sounds like ego, but Planning Commission Chair was not consulted on this. The Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals was not consulted on this. No other members of the Planning Commission that I'm aware of were consulted on this. You all received a letter, which I got a copy of, thank you, Jamie, from Jim Auk, the chair of the ZBA, expressing his views on what the hire should be, not knowing that there were offers out. I share his every view as expressed, his every word. To include, the new zoning administrator should be a registered urban planning professional. Registered urban planning professional. Somebody with experience with MSU and their training facilities and training opportunities that all of the planning commissioners, to my knowledge, with the exception of the newest one, have attended, some multiple times. This is a complicated, challenging area. You don't learn it on the go. You don't. Or you can, but you better have people around you who know it, that can carry you along, as most planning commissioners do as they come on board one at a time. I've been on the planning commission, whatever it's been, 6 years, and I've been on there when the zoning administrator was not very good. That's not good for the planning commission, and it is really not good for the city. And as Jim pointed out, there are developers out there. I know you've all heard rumors of some of them. I certainly have. With their eyes on property that cause me a lot of angst, but people who have a lot of resources at their command, a lot of money, a lot of resources, people who can make crap happen even against united will of a lot of well-meaning people. Anyway, I'll be curious to read the man's qualifications. I also want to read for you 26 seconds. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use the 26 seconds to say I'll be back, because I also received this afternoon from one of the planning commissioners, her comments on this deal. So 12, 11, I like to stand up here the whole time because it annoys Garnett, but I'll sit there.
Thank you, Dan. Any other members of the audience that would wish to make public comment? Seeing none, anyone online that would like to offer public comment on an agenda item only, please? Any hands up, Jamie? All right. All right, then, moving on. We have no introduction of ordinance, no public hearings, and we have no unfinished business. Moving on to item 12, we have new business, special event, Art in the Park. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You do have an application for Art in the Parks. We have a recommendation there for you, so it's a pretty easy one. If you just want to read through the motion.
Get to it,
Mayor Pro Tem, may I make a motion?
please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special event application Art in the Park sponsored by Sadaba to be held on September 17th, 2022, contingent on staff approval after safety meeting is conducted.
Motion by
Second.
Leo, second by Stanton. Any discussion? Pretty straightforward. No discussion from council. So you want a voice vote or a roll call?
Voice vote.
Voice vote, please.
Voice vote.
All those in favor?
Oh, all those in favor. Sorry, that was you, Jim.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Aye. Motion carries. Excellent. We are.
We had one pirate.
We are now returning to public comment. So, Mr. Fox, you have the floor for another 3 minutes.
I think most of you know Bobby Gaunt. She has been a planning commissioner for, I don't know, 6 months or so. Before that, plenty of other accolades on her resume. This SCA wouldn't exist without Bobby Gaunt, plain and simple. Like a number of people on the planning commission, she is an accomplished person completely before and outside of Saugatuck. She's been president of Ford of Canada, most notably. But also in the planning commission, we also have two, I don't know if we're blessed by them, but we have two very good lawyers. We also have a CEO of a significant regional manufacturer. So Point is, these are smart people, accomplished people, people who've done important things. And so they expect from support staff qualified, professional, competent, informed support every time out. And we will not function without that. And the city will suffer, truly will suffer without, we'll miss stuff that we should, that we're not fully up to speed on if we don't have that support. Here were Bobby's comments. Yes, Dan, please feel free to use my name. And I would really appreciate, as a planning commissioner, understanding the process that is used by the city in hiring such a person for such a critical position at this point in the life of the city. The work is hard enough and almost impossible if one does not have a well-experienced individual with a record of accomplished excellence as the city's quote unquote citizen planner. At the very least, the chairs of the Planning Commission and the ZBA should be consulting with the city on this hire. And if they are not, I would like to know why. I didn't bait her on that. That came through entirely clear from Bobby. She'd be here tonight, by the way, except she had 2 epidurals today for some back issues. She said if she felt well enough, she would make it over here, and apparently she doesn't. So we weren't advised about Cindy's departure, and now, as I understand it, the city has 2 offers out to 2 individuals. She knew and I didn't. I really don't get this. That's Bobby saying that, not me, although I really don't get this either. So anyway, like I say, our options as planning commissioners on this are kind of watch and see. But I definitely want to see what those credentials are. And those should be made public. Quite honestly, they should have been made public before any offers were extended. The job description should have been made public before that. And quite honestly, I hold Frank Walsh responsible for combining 2 positions when the position of zoning and planning administrator, I'm watching it too, don't worry, is taxing enough for one person without adding some other thing on top of it, just to get the salary up to some number. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any other public comment, either in the room or online? Anything, Jamie?
None that I see.
All right. With that, we're to correspondence. We've received Mr. DeFranco's letter from the township. That takes us to boards, commission, and committee reports. Should we just go around the table? You want to start, Mark?
Yeah, Cal Lake had a meeting a week ago. It was our presentation of our audit by our auditor, Harvard Nichols. And we came through with flying colors. So that'll be made available to this. I don't know if the city's got a copy of it yet, but there's one that'll be filed with the city.
Thank you.
And there'll be some information about it when I have Jamie pass out our last packet. But good news, our auditors. Our other, the other reports were pretty just standard reports on monthly operating reports filed with the state agencies. We did get 2 proposals from Peerless Midwest, which is the entity that maintains and monitors and tests and our well system. They are proposing a rebuild of one of the Saugatuck wells, which is up just east of the high school. That was postponed because we really didn't have adequate information. It was unfunded. It was more looked at as part of an annual, as a review. So we'll probably fund it, but we'd have to do some financial, transfers of funds. And we really didn't have a clear idea of if it was a $56,000 bid or something, we weren't just going to approve it just because, Peerless Midwest said this has to be done. So even Daryl the manager wasn't real pleased about that. Well, not pleased, but we'll probably have that come back to us at the next meeting. And then it was like $16,000 or $18,000 of work that needs to be done. That was actually budgeted at the Douglas Wells down by Waits Bayou. Basically, they're just rebuild the pumps or cleaning pumps or whatever needs to be done with those. Pretty important infrastructure though. That was about it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mark. Holly, anything on Blue Star you want to
Thank you
share? No?
for
And with historic,
Sadly,
No, okay. Nothing, Lauren?
nothing with historic.
Russ, anything you'd like to share?
Planning Commission. So Thursday, we had a regular scheduled meeting. We had a development proposal for 665 Spear Street, which is Upper Spear. It was a very interesting conversation. There's a lot of feedback from the neighbors, a lot of back and forth, a lot of written correspondence, and ultimately what ended up happening is the applicant withdrew the application for further review and to bring it back to the Planning Commission at a September meeting presumably. There's some issues with the, it's called FAR. It's, can't remember the acronyms, what it stands for. Remember, Dan? Yeah, for area ratio. Thank you, Ryan. And it'll be interesting. They have some great ideas for up there, but it's a very tight area. So we even saw Mosini showed up. Hadn't seen him for several years, Dave. And it was a good conversation. I think the Planning Commission did well with it. And you know, the applicant was at first kind of pushing back against this, but then ultimately we all started talking and came back and said, you know, I think we need to redo this. Essentially, Ryan, anything to add on that?
No, I think that's exactly how the conversation went. I think he was a little disappointed with some of the service that he received from City Hall and as far as his guidance. But I think when he realized that the city residents in the area weren't opposed to upgrading his property, he saw the compromise in there and he's looking forward to coming back and working with some very competent staff.
Anything else? No. I'll just say I'm looking forward to the first meeting of the Parks and Public Works Committee in the very near future. So that, I believe, takes us through that. Council comments on any matter. Go the opposite direction. Anything, Lauren?
Nothing at this time.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A couple things. I want to thank the DPW especially for the 10th annual Spear Street Block Party. They couldn't have done a better job, and the city clerk as well, in terms of preparing us for what we had responsibility for as an event host. And they did a fantastic job with working with us, and we had 65 or 70 people at our head count. And the weather held out for us, so it was just a really nice event. So expect another invitation for the 11th annual next year. So again, I want to thank Scott and his staff. They did a fantastic job with us. And also too, Ryan and I had a bit of an experience last Thursday after the Planning Commission. We walked out at about 8:30 and the street closed signs and the garbage cans were still up from the sidewalk sale. And the only reason I mention it is because our experience was, it was very clear to us is that when our event ended, we had responsibilities that we had to take care of at the appointed time. And I think it's just a good reminder that as events take place in town, the organizers just really need to be held accountable.
Yes,
That's the best way
and
to put it.
Russ, if I could add,
Sure.
I was able to communicate with Scott Herbert right away. And he was at home with his family, but he stepped out and took care of the barricades and the trash cans. Thank you, Scott.
There's a lot of parking spaces available.
Yeah, yeah.
My wife says,
Very
"Well,
interesting.
there's plenty of parking. Come on."
But it's always great when you get a hold of somebody who and just takes care of it. So another shout out to DPW.
Yeah, very, very, very proud of our staff. Also too, the Mount Baldhead group has, actually, it's not just the group, it's the Saugatuck Douglas History Center has submitted, and I think I mentioned that at council previously, the application for placing the radar station on the Michigan Register of Historic Places and ultimately the National Register of Historic Places. That's really where this is driving towards. We are on the agenda for September 23rd for the review board. And I don't want to spoil this because there's always something that can go wrong, but basically what we're told is that if we get on the agenda, we're generally approved. And Nathan Niedering has been very helpful to us. Scott and I have had some work with him and Ryan has as well. It's been super helpful in getting us, getting all our ducks in a row on this. So the only question I had, Ryan, is that there's that letter that we have to letter support.
Yeah, the SHPO letter that you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that in front of council.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, because they would like to see that sooner rather than later. So again, I want to thank, this is very exciting We're gonna hopefully do a toast up at the radar station once, assuming this gets approved. So that's pretty exciting. I do want to finish with reading the correspondence that was referred to by Mr. Fox from our ZBA chair. This is an email that was sent today. I think all council members received it. Members of the city council, Sagatuck has a very unusual and demanding zoning situation. A new master plan and development, pending zoning related litigation, critical dunes, historical overlay district, navigable inland river waterfront, many zoning districts, each with unique characteristics, our regulations, short-term rentals, PUDs and condominiums, complex mix of commercial and residential, and a gaggle of developers looking to immediately cash in on Sagatuck's character, charm, and reputation, and on and on and on. As the community has so painfully learned, zoning decisions can be very expensive and highly controversial. The citizens of this community, the city council, the planning commission, the historic commission, historic district commission, and the ZBA need true professional zoning direction and guidance. The new zoning administrator should be a registered urban planning professional with significant demonstrated practical experience and accomplishment. Sagatuck is paying a great wage and deserves a great leader in this important position. What is not needed is another likable person who has served in a local ZBA or as a part-time zoning person somewhere in their life. This type of person can only learn by doing. Sagatuck requires a zoning administrator who can be running at full speed the first day on the job and be immediately and positively effective. While all citizens understand the final hiring decision resides with the city council, I further recommend the chairpersons related to zoning be involved in the development of job duties and job description and the interviews. This will improve the hiring process and even more importantly, the transparency that has been lacking for so long. Thank you for your consideration. Jim Bauk, 638 Spear Street, Sagatuck, Michigan. Not much I can add to that, other than I think that we need to be very supportive of new employees and let's make sure this is successful.
Holly, any comments?
I would just, I feel I would be remiss if I didn't, I respect Jim Bach and Bobby Gaunt and those of you that serve in the zoning and planning areas as volunteers. I would like to remind everyone that it's clear in the city charter who is responsible for leading the team and building the team of city employees, and that is a city manager. So I would remind us all of sort of how things work in the city. And, you know, I know that I am glad that people have passionate opinions, and for obvious reasons, we are involved in litigation, and it is a very important position, which we have learned very painfully, but I think that we need to allow our professionals and our city manager to do his job. And also what you just said, Russ, to invite this new person in with a good spirit and a Sagatuck welcome. And, you know, we need them and want them to succeed. All of us need that and want that from this person. That's all I have to say.
Any comments, Mark?
Just to kind of add on comments, both Dan's and Russ's and Holly's about the position. I mean, it's over, the search is over, someone's been offered. They're on board, we can't change that. I would urge the city manager to as soon as that individual is available to sit down with our chairs, and I am sure that was your intention.
Sure.
Is to bring him in, introduce him, you know, and get off to a good start. So I would certainly encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I'll just conclude with some Mayor Pro Tem comments. I'm just noticing that our mayor is actually zooming into this meeting while driving. And
No, she's not driving.
Mayor Lewis, we all
Sure.
Mayor Lewis, we all love you and we want you to be safe. So please don't drive and Zoom at the same time, Mayor, please. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wow. Move, so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Adjourn.